I know the title of this video is something like DKC2 Review, but it's really not possible for me to review this game. In 1996, I was 13 years old, and this game had been out for less than a year. My mom and dad grew up with Donkey Kong in the arcade, so they were familiar with the brand name, and had bought me and my brother the original Donkey Kong Country when it came out. So they surprised us with a sequel, and my brother and I began a journey that, for as long as I live, I hope I will never forget. My brother was 11 years old in 96. The two of us were only 21 months apart in age. He was big for his age, and I was sort of small, and a lot of people thought we were twins. That's how close we were. We had an NES growing up, playing games like Mario 3, since it was the best game we had at the time. But with the new console generation, Lee got a Genesis and I got a SNES. We had moved into a new house, and we set aside a third bedroom in the house for a game room for both of us. And I remember playing Sonic 2 and Super Mario World and Jurassic Park and Power Rangers and Donkey Kong Country. But Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Conquest was different. Lee and I had played a lot of games growing up, but we'd never beaten one before. That was not the point for us. We just came in and played for a few minutes and then went back outside. But when DKC2 came out, we were just old enough, just skilled enough, that we were ready to beat a game for the very first time. We chose Donkey Kong Country 2 because we both liked it a lot, and because it had something we desperately needed: save slots. Now, I know I have listed a few games already that have saves, but none of those games were Donkey Kong Country 2. It looked different, it felt different, and most importantly of all, it had two-player co-op and was tailor-made for the two of us. I love Diddy Kong. The speed in which he moves is still a benchmark for me personally as to how fast a character should move in a video game, specifically a platformer. His roll hitting a lot of enemies is so satisfying, and he feels agile to control. Lee loved Dixie. The ability to fly and explore and to open up the level is what he most enjoyed doing. My son today plays games very similar to my brother. He enjoyed the game within the game. Diddy was my choice because he was fast and efficient, point A to point B. Lee loved Dixie because she was perfect for exploring the world. I remember swapping so that Lee could play as her because he would see something on the horizon that he wanted to go explore, but then I would get impatient with him exploring and want to get switched back to Diddy so we could beat the level. I remember blitzing through a level so much that his frustration would boil over as I was passing up bonus areas and extra bananas. This is a feature of Donkey Kong Country 2 that does not really get a lot of attention. People talk about the levels and the music and the graphics, and rightfully so, but the complementary set of Dixie and Diddy is possibly the best implementation of the two hits before you die ever conceived. They're so different, but you can beat every level with both of them. The ability to swap and co-op during gameplay just made us want to play more. It did not feel like a little brother game. We felt like partners with roles to play. It took us weeks to get through to World 6. As we climbed K. Rool's Keep, the challenge grew exponentially, but we climbed up together to the top, making it all the way to Toxic Tower. We had fought with the game and fought with each other, but we were so close. You have to remember this was before you could check guides online for help. Everything we figured it out on our own. The music used to keep us going in the most difficult levels. We'd never heard music like it. It was just like today, playing the game. The music makes the journey possible. You'll try again just to hear the tune playing. Climbing the world map, we knew we were close to the end. It was late May of 2006, and we could see the light at the end of the tunnel. But the final ascent would have to wait. My family had planned a vacation to Missouri with some friends, and we were going to not take the SNES with us. As excited as we were ready to take a break from the game. We knew that when we got back from the trip, we would beat it, that the game would be over. On the trip, we would talk about levels that we loved and how we needed to farm for some lower lives before we made the final push to the end. We discussed going back and trying to beat Clubba or search for more Crim coins to see what they did when you collected them all. We laughed, we played, we dreamed. I remember walking into the house from the trip alone. I left the house with an older brother, but came back home as an only child. My cousins were waiting for me. I learned later that our parents were worried how I would react coming home to an empty house. Our rooms are right across the hall from one another, but I had to pass his room to get to mine. The door was closed, but I went in anyway, despite everyone telling me not to. I picked up his toys, I sat on his bed, looked around the empty room. He was never going to sleep in that bed again, or play with those toys again. The finality of it was crushing, and I was hurting like I never thought possible before. I barely remember anything between the empty room and the day of the funeral. There's one thing I do remember. I moved the SNES to another room, plugged it into that TV, and I played Donkey Kong Country 2. I was determined to finish what we started. I played every moment that I could. I died over and over and over again, pushing through Toxic Tower, trying to reach the top. When I finally did, the game surprises you with one more level before the final boss, and I struggled to navigate Squawks through the maze faster and faster. Then it was the final fight, and I struggled through phase after phase, pushing further and further into that boss fight. And then it happened. Donkey Kong is free. He punches K. Rool out of the airship, and it was over. We had done it. Then I put the game down, and I did not play it again for over a decade. I loved the game, don't get me wrong, but it was painful for me. I grew up, went to college, got married, had children before I touched the game again. I picked up a blue clamshell Game Boy Advance and was looking for some games to play on it. I think it was around 2013. And I was at a little game store and I found a Game Boy Advance copy of DKC2. I played through that version and beat it, and all that did was make me want a SNES copy. So I found one of those about a year or so later and played through it. Satisfied, I put the game on my shelf, and there it sat for about 10 years or so. I'd bring it down and play it once in a while, going through the first few levels, but I never seriously played it more than once until now. My intention has been to review it for a long time, and I find that I can't really look at the game subjectively. When it frustrates me, I can't fully tell if it's because of the pain of the memories it brings, and when I enjoy it, I wonder if I'm blinded by the joy of those same memories. Its best and worst features are amplified to me, but there is no doubt that the game affects me. I would not say anything as melodramatic as the game saved my life. My faith, family, friends continue to do that even to this day. But the game is like a little time capsule for me. A balm for an old wound that I apply occasionally when I feel nostalgic or when I miss my brother. I think it's cool that games can do that.